Every time I kill in God's name, an angel's scream haunts me at midnight. The moon hung low, casting a pallid glow over the deserted street, where every shadow seemed to whisper secrets of sins long buried. Jack had always felt a pull towards the darkness, an irresistible urge that tugged at him, like a puppet held by invisible strings. Tonight was different tonight. Something twisted inside him had awakened. Each beat of his heart echoed with a sinister rhythm, a countdown to the unknown. Every time he took a life, it felt like an angel screamed. The sound was raw, a chilling melody that crawled up his spine, leaving him breathless with fear. What had he done? His hands trembled, slick with sweat, and maybe something more. He could still see her face, eyes wide with terror, a fleeting expression of disbelief. As he crossed the threshold of guilt and violence, a chilling moan seemed to croon softly in the wind, one he couldn't quite shake. Dark clouds rolled over the formerly clear night sky, blotting out the stars as though the universe itself mourned the loss of another soul. But he wasn't alone in his madness. No, the whispers danced around him, melding with the rustling leaves, urging him onward. The night felt alive, vibrant with energy thick and palpable. It was intoxicating, like sipping gasoline. Here lay the power and the weight of a choice, one that crushed his chest with its enormity. For every life taken, there was a risk, a price paid with an angel's wail. Jack felt it now, a tightness, like the world closing in on him, as if every breath he took came with a cost. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But there was no turning back. It was too late. The remnants of the scream and note haunting inside his mind echoed louder as the darkness deepened. Jack's throat tightened, panic clawing at his insides. The oppressive silence that followed was broken only by his jagged breaths. This wouldn't be the last life he'd take. Those words loomed above him, demons playing tag with his sanity. He glanced around, eyes darting, expecting to see the wind itself take form, whispering his secrets to the night. What was happening to him? And how many lives would it take before the angel chose to silence him once and for all? The rain began to fall, a soft patter at first, then growing into a relentless downpour that washed over the street like a baptism. Jack stood there, a ghost in the storm, feeling the cold droplets blend with the warmth of his shame. The world blurred around him, and he could hardly recognize his own thoughts beneath the layers of dread and guilt. Every heartbeat seemed to resonate with the angel's wail, that haunting sound drilling deeper into his mind. He staggered back against the rough brick wall of an alley, as if trying to brace himself against his own haunting. The familiarity of that scream unsettled him. It was unlike anything he had ever known, a sound that echoed from his very core, reminding him that life was fragile, too fragile to be taken away. In his mind, he replayed the moments leading up to his latest act. The streets, the confrontation, the escape, it all felt like a poorly directed film, every frame blurry with regret. But turmoil bubbled beneath the surface, whispering dark promises, the thrill of power, the sweet release of pain. It was so seductive, this new aspect of his identity. God's name twisted into something that felt more like a curse than a blessing. The streets were empty now, save for the rain-soaked pavement reflecting the city's neon heartbeat. How long would he wander in this purgatory? The others had told him it was exhilarating, this feeling of being unchained, but Jack felt only a deepening chill. Would he feel this weight forever? He couldn't shake the feeling that the angel's wail was just a prelude. It hinted at something worse that was coming for him. Then the shadows shifted. Jack's breath hitched as he glimpsed a figure at the alley entrance. A woman, silhouetted by the scattered streetlight, her face obscured by darkness. He peered closer, instinctively stepping back, but it was too late. She took a step forward, and just like that, she was illuminated by the dull glow behind her, her eyes burning with a fierce intensity that held him spellbound, fear and curiosity battling within. Jack, she said, her voice cutting through the sound of the rain like a thunderclap. I've been looking for you. Panic ignited his senses, and he clenched his fists, ready to flee, but something about her kept him rooted. There was a deliverance in her gaze, an urgency that pulled him closer against his natural instincts to escape. Do you know what you've done? She continued, stepping into the dim light. Do you even understand the chaos you've unleashed? Jack's heart raced, thudding against his ribs like a desperate plea for judgment. You don't know what you're talking about, he shot back, feigning bravado, although inside he was unraveling. Don't I? Her smile was a blade dangerous yet enticing. I know more about you than you realize. The angel screams aren't whispers. They are warnings. They are cries calling out for justice, and you're not safe. The real shock hit as she moved closer, words spilling like the rain. But it doesn't have to be this way. You can stop before it's too late. Jack's mind raced. A million questions erupted in his thoughts. Who was she? How did she know? And most importantly, could he even trust her words? But even as he grappled with his own disbelief, he couldn't shake the feeling that this stranger was more than a mere observer. She was a player in his fate, and surely enough, the die had already been cast or had it. Tell me what you know, he demanded, his voice trembling but resolute. Was this his chance for redemption? Or merely another twist in the dark comedy of his life? The rain intensified, matching the chaos in his heart as he awaited her answer, the silence crackling with expectation. And with every moment that passed, as the storm raged on, one question loomed larger than the rest. What price would he have to pay to silence the scream? A chill crept down Jack's spine as she stepped closer, the rain creating a curtain around them, muffling the world into a soft, distant hum. He could see her features more clearly now. Her hair clung to her face like tendrils of shadow, and her eyes pierced through the storm. The intensity of her gaze clutched at his throat, suffocating him with the weight of understanding he wasn't ready to confront. You think you're the only one haunted by this? She whispered, her voice laced with a mixture of sympathy and reproach. You're far from alone, Jack. The city is filled with ghosts like us, each one searching for closure, each scream a reminder of debts unpaid. Stop, he choked out, the words slipping through the cracks of his resolve. I don't want to hear any more. Knowing he was on the brink, one step away from collapsing into the chaos he decreated, he found strength and desperation in her presence, something he hadn't felt in a long while. Just tell me what you know. She inhaled sharply, the tension between them pulsing like the rain around them. You're a part of something much bigger. You never asked for this, but it shows you a darkness that feeds on fear and pain. The angel at ISNT, just a scream. It's a call to arms for those that have fallen into the abyss, and you, Jack, are at the center. What are you talking about? Wild-eyed, he stepped back, panic bubbling over. I'm just trying to survive. Her laugh was low and bitter. Survive? You've already crossed the line into a war you can't comprehend, and the only way out is through your reckoning. Her eyes flashed with fervor. You can change. There's still time. Change. He echoed incredulously, years of his life flashing through his mind, each wrong turn, each choice that led him deeper into the dark. How can I possibly change? The words halted as the thunder rolled once more, drowning out his protests. The rain picked up, drenching them both in a furious cascade, and he glanced away for an instant, drowning in the chaos of thoughts. When he looked back, she was closer, her face no longer shrouded by the shadows. There was a softness there now, almost a tenderness in her expression that tugged at something deep within him, a flicker of hope that maybe redemption was possible. You're not beyond help, Jack, but you have to be willing to face the consequences of your actions. You have to confront the very thing you fear most, she urged, stealing a glance down the dark alley. The urgency in her voice sent a fresh spike of dread through him. They won't stop coming for you until you do. A sudden wail echoed from the depths of the storm, sharper than any knife. Jack's heart plummeted. It was the angel's cry, the sound morphing and twisting into something dark, something more fierce. Jack trembled, panic clawing at him as he realized it wasn't just a warning. It was a thrumming reminder of all he was running from. Jack, she shouted, pulling him from his spiraling thoughts. This isn't just about you. It's about everyone who is affected by what you've done. If you don't confront it, you'll lose everything, maybe even your life. He fought the clenching terror rising in his chest. The storm outside was nothing compared to the tempest brewing within him. "What do I do?" he asked, desperation spilling into each syllable. But before she could respond, a violent crash rang out behind them. Jack turned just in time to see shadowy figures emerging from the rain-soaked darkness, eyes gleaming like hungry wolves. They were drawn to the sound, drawn to him. The woman stepped back, her expression turning fierce, protective. "Run," she yelled. "Don't look back. You have to find the truth and face it. Only then can you silence the scream." He hesitated, torn between the urgency of her voice and the terrifying figures approaching. But there was no choice. He could see the danger clawing its way through the night, threatening to engulf him. Fueled by adrenaline and desperation, Jack sprinted down the alley, heart pounding in rhythm with the echo of the angel's wail. He would have to discover the truth, confront his demons, or risk losing all he had left. And just as he turned the corner, a sinister laugh echoed behind him, twisting in the rain. "Good luck, Jack, you're going to need it." What awaited him at the end of this dark path loomed like shadows in his mind. How far would he go for redemption? The air was thick, heavy with the scent of rain-soaked pavement. Jack's feet pounded against the asphalt, each step a desperate plea for distance from the specters creeping up behind him. The rain lashed against his skin like icy daggers, but it was the weight of fear that pinned him down. He couldn't shake the echoes of that sinister laugh, nor the chilling cries of the angel that stirred an urgency deeper than instinct. He rounded another corner, his mind racing. Thoughts of escape flooded him, but each one was laced with the same dread. What lay ahead? The darkness felt alive, twisting and shifting at the edges of his vision. He spotted a flicker of movement, a figure cloaked in shadow, standing against the dim glow of a streetlight, coiled like a spring ready to unleash fury. "Jack!" It was her voice, barely audible above the storm's roar. The woman. He skidded to a halt. She looked different now, her body language a mix of fierce determination and palpable concern. "You need to listen. How did you find me?" he gasped, drenched and panting, throat raw from the cold air. "I can sense it. The darkness that's pursuing you also connects us." Her gaze hardened. "But you're running blindly. You cannot escape your past, Jack. It's time to face it." "No." He shook his head, panic escalating like the storm around them. "I can't. I want tea." But that storm inside him and outgrew with each heartbeat. Images of his past flashed through his mind like lightning strikes, illuminating every wrong turn he'd made. The faces of those he'd hurt surged up like a great wave, and he found himself buckling under the weight of their accusations. Guilt wrapped around him tighter than the ring. "Listen to me," she shouted, her voice slicing through his thoughts. "You think that running will save you? That fear is a shield? It isn't. They'll come for you until you confront what you've done." Her words hit him hard, and for a heartbeat, he felt the terrifying truth in them. A chill sent shivers through his entire being, and he studied her, searching for the safety he craved. Fear made it hard to breathe, yet somehow, he sensed strength in her, something he could grasp onto if only to keep himself from drowning. "Where do I start?" he managed to whisper, each word tasting of resignation. "You must go to the old church, where it all began," she said, gesturing through the tangled streets that twisted like veins beneath the storm's fury. "Don't let them find you. I cannot protect you forever. You'll need to walk alone through those doors, Jack. The truth waits for you inside." Every instinct screamed at him to run in the opposite direction, but in that moment, he recognized the gravity of the choice laid before him. The church stood like a specter against the heavy clouds, both a prison of his memories and a potential sanctuary from the storm. Before he could answer, the figures reappeared, a pack of phantoms swarming from the shadows, eyes wide with hunger, mirroring the creature that lurked within him. "Go," she shouted, shoving him toward the direction of the church. "Now, you have to be ready to face what you fear most." Jack stumbled forward, adrenaline igniting his resolve, even as panic clawed at his mind, dragging him back into the depths of despair. He sprinted down the rain-soaked street, the specter of death hard on his heels, laughing, taunting. Each step felt heavier, as if the ground beneath him wanted to swallow him whole. As he neared the church, the familiar eerie architecture loomed over him, the door creaking open as if it awaited his arrival. But the voices from behind him grew louder, sharper, an unholy chant echoing through the frigid air. Face us, Jack. Face your sins. His heart thundered. The weight of his past pressed upon him like a vice. He turned to look back, and for a moment, all that fear threatened to consume him. Could he truly confront what haunted him? Could he ask for forgiveness? Or was he forever destined to be the monster he feared? The shadows flickered behind him, growing closer with every breath. He stood at the threshold, pulse racing, thoughts spiraling into chaos. Redemption or doom awaited him just beyond the door, and the haunting strains of the angel's scream seemed to beckon him forward, a desperate invitation or a fatal warning. Would he have the courage to take that first step inside, or would he let the darkness swallow him whole? Jack hesitated at the church door, the world around him fading as his heart pounded in his ears. The rain splattered against the stone steps, mixing with the shadows that curled up toward him like long fingers clawing for solace. He fought against the deep-seated urge to flee, feeling the weight of every sin bearing down on him. Face us, they called again, the specters' voices merging into a cacophony of accusations, drawing closer. Jack felt the cold dread coil tight around him, suffocating, dark. They were right behind him, ready to consume him whole if he faltered. With a shuddering breath, he finally pushed the door open, the hinges creaking like a ghost's wail. A blast of stale air hit him, carrying the scent of old wood and burnt candles, memories nestled within the sanctuary. Every step forward was a journey into his own hell, thoughts colliding with visions of everything he had tried to outrun. Inside, the church felt alive, shadows dancing along the walls and flickering as lightning illuminated the stained glass faces twisted in eternal agony. It was as if the very building was aware of his sins, quietly judging him. He could almost hear the whispers, the soft sighs of remorse echoing in the corners. Jack, a voice called, softer now. It was her again, the woman who had tried to save him. The desperation in her tone sliced through the chaos. You have to confront the truth. You can't silence your past forever. The internal pain clawed at him, flaring like an open wound. He pressed his palms against the cold stone of a nearby pillar, feeling the rough texture beneath his fingers, its solidity grounding him. What if I can't? What if it all goes to hell? He murmured to himself, heart racing. You have to be strong. Look into the altar, she urged, stepping closer into the light cast by the flickering candles. Suddenly, her features shimmered in the dim glow, revealing a depth of fear he hadn't noticed before. The answers are there, but you must be ready to accept them. This is your moment, Jack. Just then, a deep rumble echoed from outside, causing the stained glass to rattle. The specters at his back surged forward, their forms shifting into monstrous shapes. You think you can hide in here? You can't run from yourself. They howled, voices piercing his mind like a lance. Jack's breath quickened. The shadows pressed against him, a sinister tide threatening to spill over, drowning him in panic. But he glanced at the altar, where flickering candles cast shadows that seemed to form images from his past. Faces he had wronged stared back at him, eyes filled with a mix of sadness and rage. Forgive me, he whispered, the words barely escaping his lips. But would they ever hear him? The darkness behind him pulsed with a life of its own, every heartbeat within him tempting him to flee once more. Do it, she pushed, desperation lacing her voice. You can't run anymore. Choose to face it. The shadows roared, drowning out her plea, overwhelming him. He took a step backward, stricken with doubt, when a flash of lightning illuminated a figure, a child, standing at the foot of the altar, hauntingly familiar yet foreign. Jack! The child's voice rang out, fragile and echoing in the vast emptiness. It was his past laid bare, wrapped in innocence and untouched by the sins of adulthood. A knot twisted in his gut, emotions boiling to the surface. No, he choked. Why did you leave me? The child questioned, voice trembling. The floodgates broke open, and his past rushed in faster than the storm outside. Fear tightened its grip on his throat. He had to confront not only his sins but the innocence he had shattered. The shadows loomed closer, tighter, as he wavered between sprinting back through the door and taking a leap of faith into the untangling truth awaiting him in the light. It was time, if he wanted to silence the screams, to begin the hardest battle of all. Would he find the strength to walk forward or be swallowed by the darkness forever? Jack's heart raced as he stood paralyzed at the altar, chills cascading down his spine. The figure of the child was a beacon of everything he had hidden, the embodiment of guilt etched in every line of that small face. The frantic whispers of the shadows grew louder, urging him toward the desperate comfort of flight, but he could feel something deeper pulling him forward. Why did you leave me? The question pierced the air like a knife, binding him to the moment. It wrapped around him, thick and suffocating. The room felt electric, charged with unresolved pain, as if the very fabric of the past was stretching and ready to snap. I had to protect you, he stammered, the words sliding off his tongue like ashes. What protection could abandonment ever bring? He stepped closer, his knees weak, each advance against the draw of the darkness waged within him. The child's eyes, orbs of deep sorrow, bore right into his soul. But reaching for the child felt like reaching for a mirage, and part of him wanted to turn back, escape the avalanche of remorse. You don't understand. He almost yelled, panic rising. The specters shifted like wolves preparing to pounce, their howls a symphony of his failures. I didn't want you to suffer. Lightning illuminated the church again, casting their figures in a surreal light, contorting their faces into nightmarish versions of the people he once knew. Then why did you let me go through it alone? The child's voice trembled, small yet hauntingly powerful. Tears pooled in his eyes, cutting through his defenses, forcing him to confront every excuse he had ever crafted. The world, it's dark, child. It eats people alive. Jack felt the weight of his lies crash over him. I couldn't save you, then face it, she cried, emerging from the shadows, desperation in her voice. Face the truth. Your sins won't just go away. He clenched his jaw, suppressing the wave of fear. Was he really poised for a confrontation? The shadows surged almost like they were anticipating his hesitation. What do you want from me? He shouted, feeling small. The church trembled, the walls closing in as if ready to engulf him whole with the sorrows he refused to confront. Redemption, echoed the choir of phantoms, their voices blending, an unending chant laced with grief. He felt them breathing down his neck, shadows clawing at his thoughts, urging him to succumb to despair. Jack's eyes darted back to the altar. Oddly illuminated, as if through divine grace, lay an old Bible. Its cover was cracked, pages worn and yellowing with time. But that wasn't what captivated his gaze. It was the innocence promised between those covers, the forgiveness waiting to be claimed. Until that moment, he had held steadfast to the belief that his price was too high, that the past was an unquenchable hunger. But what if he could change? With shaky breaths, he took one final step forward, reaching toward the book like a lifeline. The moment his fingers brushed the dust-covered leather, a thunderous crack exploded throughout the church, shaking the foundation to its core. The shadows recoiled, their voices cascading into a chorus of anguished screams. Jack! No! The woman's voice implored from somewhere deep within, but he was caught in the storm of his reckoning. The Bible flared in his grip, light spilling from its pages, shredding the darkness around him. Embrace it, he whispered, the words leaving his mouth like a prayer. Forgive me. As he delved into the book, words of healing and penance flooding his mind, he felt the pull of darkness writhe in violent protest. The specters shrieked, rage and denial clawing at the edges of his consciousness. And in that moment of chaos, surrounded by howling shadows and the promise of redemption, he braced himself for the inevitable truth. Would he be consumed by the past raging within him? Or could he rise from the ashes, reborn into the light that flickered before him? And as he whispered another plea for forgiveness, the answer began to form, a revelation igniting like lightning in his veins. The energy surged through Jack as he gripped the Bible, hoping for salvation. The light radiating from the pages began to swirl, new words spilling forth that echoed in the church like thunder. Each phrase hit him, sharp and raw, laying bare the guilt he had buried so deep. As the shadows writhed and hissed, the room glowed brighter, revealing a more vibrant scene from his past memories of laughter, innocent moments with the child who had become a specter of his nightmares. Yet, alongside those memories floated the darker truths, choices he thought were made for love, but had only led to greater suffering. Suddenly, a shadow lunged toward him. The vision shattered, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness. It loomed, an amalgamation of all his fears and regrets. You think you can be redeemed? The figure hissed, its voice a haunting echo. You abandoned her. You have no right to seek forgiveness. Jack's heart pounded, the weight of the past suffocating. I tried to protect her, he cried out. But as the words left his mouth, he could hear the echoes of those who had suffered because of his choices. They cried out in jest, mocking him, and in that moment, Jack felt as if their spirits could tear him apart. But the light from the Bible pulsed against the cold darkness, almost as if it sent out a shockwave. He clutched it tighter, desperation flooding his system. I can't change what has done, but I can change who I am now. I have to believe there is still hope. The light intensified, momentarily drowning out the cacophony of despair. Jack closed his eyes, forcing himself to imagine a world where healing could begin. You don't own me, he shouted, his voice rising above the noise. I am not my failures. A piercing scream shattered the air, and the shadow figure recoiled. Jack felt the barrier between hope and despair bend, stretching to its limits. He opened his eyes to find the light surrounding him was coalescing into a shimmering path that led back to the child, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. Fight, she urged, her voice a fragile thread of trust. With newfound resolve, he began stepping forward, the light guiding him. Each footfall felt like a weight lifted. Suddenly, the lingering phantoms did not intimidate, they galvanized him. His truth, however painful, was his power. I have come to face you, he declared, determination thrumming through his veins. Face us. You can never be free, snarled the dark presence, surging back with renewed ferocity. The shadows danced around him, wrapping him in a chilling embrace, but Jack decided to keep moving forward, focusing on the flicker of light that led him. His entire being surged with energy as he shouted, I own my past, but it will not define my future. With one final surge of defiance, he reached for the child's outstretched hand. Time slowed as their fingers were on the verge of contact, bridging the gap of sorrow and hope. But then came a deafening roar. The shadows erupted, shrieking in rage and anguish, a tempest of fury swirling around Jack. A dark tendril coiled around his wrist, dragging him backward, seeking to engulf him. No, he screamed, feeling the grip of despair tugging violently at his resolve. As the battle between light and darkness engulfed him, Jack felt his heart straining, the pulsing heat of the Bible in his hand a stark reminder of the path he'd chosen. Could he conquer the darkness and claim the redemption he sought? What would he have to sacrifice to save her, to save himself? Then came a flicker of movement in the shadows, something fierce. Someone was fighting back. As Jack strained against the dark grip, he sensed the turning tide, but the secret of that strength was just out of reach. Was this truly the dawn of his redemption, or the descent into a deeper abyss? Jack had to know what would happen next. Jack's heart raced, panic clawing at him as the dark tendril tightened its grip. The shadows howled, an orchestra of despair that threatened to pull him deep into their void. He could sense the flickering warmth of the child's light fading, her figure becoming a distant memory in the chaos. Let her go? He shouted, fury igniting within him. He felt brittle, like glass on the edge of shattering. But beneath that fragility, a fire sparked. How could he allow the darkness to win? He'd already lost so much. In the split second that followed, the pull of the tendril intensified, a malevolent force wrapping around his thoughts. Images flooded back, each memory heavy with regret. The last time he saw her, the way she smiled, how full of life she was. I will not let you take her, he cried, pulling with all his might against the shadow's grasp. As he focused on the child's glimmering essence, another scream roared through the air, cutting through the fog of despair. This time, it was different. Not the frantic wail of the past, but a warrior's cry, steadfast and filled with defiance. With renewed determination, Jack steeled himself. He remembered the words from the Bible, the warmth of hope swirling around him. I am a father. I fought for her. I will continue to fight. The light returned, now blinding, a promise of protection, his promise. Surging forward, he felt the grip of the tendril loosen, splintering as he pushed through the pain. The shadows hissed, retreating slightly, the darkness quenching beneath his resolve. He began to step toward the flickering light that was his daughter, each movement fueled by memories of her laughter, the joy she brought to his life. Suddenly, the darkness swirled violently, shrieking, "You think this battle is yours to win? You are nothing without your guilt." Jack hesitated, the words striking deep in his core. Was he really only his mistakes? But then the memory of her glowing smile swarmed his mind, so innocent, so full of love. "I refuse to be defined by my past," he shouted, the echo of his voice mingling with the rage of shadows. Then, just as Jack felt a glimmer of victory touch his soul, the shadows screamed as if stung. A flash of blinding light descended around him, illuminating the chamber. He caught a glimpse of a figure within the brilliance, a radiant shape that beamed with authority. It was a being that looked human yet transcendent, standing tall against the encroaching darkness. "Gather your strength," the figure commanded, its voice resonating like thunder, yet soft enough to soothe the chaos surrounding him. "Only together can we defeat this nightmare." Jack's grip on the Bible tightened. The energy surged again while he sensed the gathering of power, weaving through him as if knitted by divine hands. But the shadows weren't done. They lunged again, rekindled by a more feral rage. "Foolish man, you think you can save her? You'll only bring her further pain." The darkness seethed, tentacles of gloom reaching desperate lengths to grasp at Jack. "No," he bellowed, a burst of light radiating from his heart, swallowing the tendrils of darkness with a love fiercer than any shadow. "I am her father, and I will protect her." As the battlefield of light clashed with shadow, a blinding explosion erupted, momentarily illuminating the church. Jack felt it, the warmth, the connection not just to his daughter, but to the very essence of hope itself. And just as the light seemed to swallow the shadows whole, Jack knew this was only the beginning. What was this figure? Who were they? And could they truly stand against the dark? With thoughts racing faster than the chances of salvation, Jack found himself teetering on the edge of understanding, of fear, of something far more sinister lurking in the depths. What awaited him if he surrendered? Would the light prevail, or was the darkness only growing stronger? Jack had to dig deeper if he were to uncover the truth. The explosion of light washed over Jack like a purifying tide, pushing the shadows back, but his victory felt fleeting. The air crackled with tension as the battle raged on. With each heartbeat, he could sense the darkness regrouping, its clawing tendrils slithering and whispering around him, seeking cracks in his resolve. "Stand firm," the radiant figure urged, its form shimmering like a beacon against the encroaching gloom. Jack felt his heart pounding violently in his chest, echoing the drums of war thundering in his ears. "The darkness has a will of its own. You must not yield." "Who are you?" Jack shouted, desperation teetering on the edge of his voice. It was impossible to swallow the fear creeping back in. Was this being truly his ally, or another trick of the shadows? "I am a guardian, sent to guide those who dare defy despair," it replied, eyes glowing like embers in a dying fire. "You possess the strength born from love. Use it. The child needs you, and the power of guilt cannot touch a father's heart." Those words struck Jack hard. The love for his daughter was an unquenchable flame, far stronger than the darkness could extinguish. He gripped the Bible tighter, couplets from the sacred text swirling in his mind. Wouldn't he falter? The shadows didn't he know that a father's love was indomitable? The tendrils lunged again, snapping at him like ravenous beasts. Jack pushed the energy that had ignited within him, wielding it like a weapon. "She is my world," he roared, channeling his pain into a beam of raw light. It surged outwards, piercing through the tentacles, leaving behind charred remnants. But then came the overwhelming wave of darkness, the murky tendrils wrapping around him like a suffocating shroud, clawing at his thoughts once more. The insidious whispers began anew, dredging up doubt and sorrow. "You have already failed her once. Every time you left, every moment you weren't there." "No." He shook his head violently, grasping onto the singular truth that rooted him, the vision of her radiant smile, her laughter echoing like a sweet melody. Jack expelled a primal roar that reverberated in the very marrow of his bones, pulling against the shadows with everything he had. "I will not let regret consume me." The shadows retreated momentarily, but Jack knew they weren't done. "Your past is a haunting specter, Jack. What makes you think you can alter the future?" They hissed, slithering around him, taunting him like twisted specters of his own making. "Because I can choose." He yelled back, his voice fierce. I can choose to fight. I can choose to love. His faith burned brighter, driving out the voices as he focused on the figure of his daughter, now glimmering just beyond the haze. The glowing shape surged forward, merging with Jack's light, pushing deeper into the heart of darkness. In that instant, they became a force greater than either could be alone. Then it happened, a shattering revelation. In the heart of the chaos, as Jack and the Radiant being pressed on, he felt an unsettling shift. From the depths of the shadows, something ancient stirred, a presence both familiar and terrifying. Jack, came a voice, echoing in the void, one that twisted through his consciousness like a blade. His heart dropped as he recognized it, every syllable steeped in his darkest fears. You cannot escape the past. Frozen, Jack's pulse quickened as anxiety surged through him like ice. This wasn't just a battle of light and dark. Something far beyond mere shadows was at play. Was it something he had buried long ago? Or was it the embodiment of his failures come to torment him? And there, within the swirling darkness, Jack saw a figure coalesce, a twisted reflection of himself. Face me, it beckoned, voice dripping with seduction and dread. With fiery determination mixed with paralyzing doubt, he braced for the confrontation ahead. The shadows tightened their grip, but as Jack stood against his fears, it was clear, the true fight was only just beginning. What would remain of him if he faced this wraith? Was there a part of him that he was not ready to confront? A heavy silence enveloped the church as Jack stood face to face with the twisted reflection of himself. The apparition bore all the marks of his darkest choices, a ghastly replay of the pain he had inflicted upon others and himself. Every scar on its visage whispered a memory, a shame, and each breath it took sent a chill racing down his spine. Face me, it echoed again, a siren-esque call beckoning him into despair, the shadows thickening around them like a suffocating blanket. Jack's heart thundered, warring against the urge to flee. But in that moment, he felt an ember of strength ignite within him. He remembered the flicker of his daughter's light, vibrant and pure. You're not real, he shouted, voice quivering yet defiant. You're just the monster I created. A cruel smile spread across the shadowy figure's face, dripping with mockery. You think you can dismiss me so easily? I am every fear you've hidden away, every soul you've harmed. The shadows curled around Jack, whispering promises of relief if only he would succumb to them. You're weak. You can't bear the weight of your sins. But Jack's resolve was solidifying. I'm stronger than you know. He roared, every word cutting through the darkness like a blade. He couldn't change the past, but he had to confront it. He stepped forward, anger fueling his every step. You don't define me. I define who I am now. I want to let you win. The shadows recoiled, hissing in denial as Jack pressed on, growing more resolute with each word. I faced the child I abandoned. I felt the screams of the victims I've wronged. And I will not live in fear. I will not be your prisoner. With every claim of his strength, the reflection faltered, and Jack's own light began to pierce through the darkness like the first rays of dawn breaking through a storm. I am a father and a man who chooses to fight for redemption. The shadows trembled, shrieking as renewed bravery surged through him. Lightning illuminated the church, revealing the truth in stark relief. There, dancing amongst the chaos, was his daughter's spirit, bright and unwavering, pressing forward through the storm. Fight, Daddy. You can do it. Her voice rang, fierce and full of hope. Jack extended his hand toward her, and at the same moment, the apparition lunged, desperate to sever his hope. This time you can't escape, it screeched, stretching black tendrils forward, seeking to ensnare him in despair. But he was ready. Jack clutched the Bible tighter, channeling all the memories of joy, each smile from his daughter, every moment he had fought against the darkness. I own my pain, but it will not consume me, he roared, a surge of light enveloping him as he released the words of forgiveness he had been holding inside for so long. The reflection faltered, the darkness retracting as Jack pressed through with unwavering resolve. I am not ashamed of who I was. I will rise above. I will protect my child, my hope. Light fell in torrents, spilling from his fingers like liquid sun, scorching the shadows that threatened to engulf him. The scream of an anguished ghost echoed as the shadow whirled, desperately retreating. No, you can't, it howled, but Jack's voice drowned it out. Yes, I can. With one final declaration, he thrust his hand forward, light exploding outwards, a radiant shield of past and promise that shattered the darkness into fragments that evaporated like smoke. The church rang with silence as the shadows fled. Jack stood tall, bathed in warmth, energy cascading off him like a tidal wave of rebirth. His daughter's figure shimmered bright, her smile reflecting unconditional love and forgiveness. Jack wept, tears cascading down, mixing relief with gratitude. He had faced the darkest parts of himself and emerged on the other side, carrying with him the strength that would keep him from returning to that abyss. It's okay, Daddy, she whispered. You did it. With a light touch, she seemed to merge with him, a soft glow enveloping his heart. In that moment of unity, Jack knew they were no longer alone. Forgiveness thrummed within him, wrapping them both in its embrace. As the first rays of dawn began to breach the horizon outside, he looked around the church, now infused with a gentle light that flickered through the stained glass, illuminating the darkness that had once so harshly imprisoned him. Jack understood then that his journey for redemption wouldn't end at that moment. The road ahead would require vigilance, the scars of his past reminders of the battles he would face, not just within himself, but outside in a world still plagued by darkness. But he was no longer afraid. With hope stitched firmly in his heart, he would strive to confront each moment with honesty, strength, and the light of love. As he stepped out of the church, the air crisp with possibility, Jack turned one last time to gaze at the sanctuary that had witnessed both his torment and salvation. I won't run again, he vowed, determination shaping his voice as he walked into the light of a new day, ready to meet whatever came next. This was his moment of reckoning, a chance not just for himself, but for those he loved. Forgiveness would lead him on, and with each step taken, he would make the choice to be better, to live boldly, and to honor the ones lost along the way. With that, he stepped into the future, a future shimmering with possibility, brightened by the fierce glow of hope. Now, it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to not miss any exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm. And don't forget to flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this mind-blowing conclusion. Finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this finale. Don't wait even one more second to show your support.